For those of you who have not seen Jamie's first 6-week interview in a video that I will link to the end of this interview, but this is her final 90-day interview. So this is going to be the full picture, everything that you can anticipate moving into a whole food plant-based lifestyle and how she has been able to navigate each situation as it arises. This is Jamie.
I am 36 years old. I live in Northeast Florida. And I am a mother of 4 children, happily married. I have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And I work as a veterinary technician.
Big, heavy doggies is what she works with. All right, Jamie, what exactly did your diet consist of prior to starting this whole food plant-based transition?
The standard American diet, hot dogs, cheeseburgers, French fries loaded with cheese or a whole bunch of ketchup, steak, chicken. Pretty much, if you could go into a restaurant and find it, that's pretty much what we were eating. Not only at home, but out at restaurants too.
Okay, yeah, sounds pretty familiar. Isn't it funny how hard it is to remember what you ate 3 months ago?
Yes.
Okay, so what was your primary motivation behind making the plant-based transition?
Healthier me, trying to keep up with 4 children, 2 that are very, very young, is very hard when you're overweight and you're sluggish and not feeling your best. I tried multiple diets and nothing was really working. And so I watched a lot of videos about being plant-based, and I figured, why not take the plunge and see how it does, see how it helps me out.
Okay, so what were some of the specific results you were hoping to achieve from this particular program?
Better sleep, be able to kind of keep up with my children, being able to go outside in the hot sun and run around with them and not get winded 2 seconds after running. Just kind of be better physically for me. Obviously, I'm tall, but having a lot of weight on my joints was not easy. And so basically being able to just feel better about being able to move around.
Those are great reasons to start changing your diet. Jamie also wanted to lose about 40 pounds total, so that is definitely an ongoing process, but we'll get into how much she has lost in a little bit. Yeah, so she kind of touched on the fact that it was really important to her to learn how to nourish herself and her family, trying to figure out who the heck to listen to and what research is sound research and what gurus to follow and what YouTube videos are helpful and unhelpful. And she was able to cut through all the BS rather quickly by just diving into a program such as this one. She also wanted to reduce inflammation. She was having some chronic knee pain, probably both from the excess weight and from the inflammation that was likely due to the types of foods she was eating. She had extreme bouts of anxiety and depression that she was unable to cope with during her old lifestyle. She was on a number of different medications that were really worrisome for her. She also wanted to get rid of her food cravings. These were very severe when it came to the sweets, things like her candy and soda. She was drinking soda daily prior to starting this program. She also wanted to, like she mentioned, increase her stamina and keep up with her kiddos. Her kids would love to go to the park, at least 2 times per week, and she really, really wanted to provide that for them. So I will let Jamie tell you a little bit about what her meals look like today.
All right. So on a normal day, I still do all my meal prepping. It's just easier for me. I have a very, very hectic lifestyle that my kids keep me busy. So I eat oat groats in the morning. Sometimes I get in a savory kick where I'll add sauteed veggies and a curry powder or just with some sort of seasonings. Sometimes I'll even put, if I made a soup, I'll put that on the oat groats or even like spaghetti on the oat groats just to kind of make it a savory meal. But if I don't want savory, I'll go with sweets where I add cinnamon and then whatever fruits I have available. I prefer fresh fruits. So right now we have strawberries and blueberries. And then watermelon and all those kind of fun things. My lunch consists of salads. I'm huge into the salads. It just is really, really good to me. And then I'll usually put beans and some sort of grain. I'll add that into the salad. Sometimes it'll be more of like a breedable style. Other times it's more salads with the grains and the beans. And then for dinner, it all depends. But usually this is the meal that I have with my kids. So I would do soups because I really like the soups. But sometimes I'll do spaghetti, where I just load it full of veggies. Sometimes even pureeing the veggies with the sauce, so the kids don't really understand or realize that they are eating a ton of veggies. We did broccoli and cauliflower tater tots recently. Kids loved them. We do black bean and sweet potato burgers, which my daughter actually was stealing mine because she ate all hers and wanted some of mine. So that's really, really nice to have kids like want to get into it. But I started where I put out recipes, or I go online and I have my two older children, my 10-year-old and my 8-year-old, sit with me, and we kind of have started planning out the week's dinners. And is obviously I like to batch prep it, so it's very easy, but sometimes it's just we feel like having a certain thing that night. And so then we go ahead and just go online, look up, see what we have as far as the recipe goes, and go from there.
That's awesome. You still have watermelon in Florida right now?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so jealous. Okay, so I also love that you were able to start incorporating more of these seasonings. So many times people completely forget about all of the herbs and spices that we can use to make our food more flavorful. And even sweet things like the cinnamon, the cloves, the nutmeg, and the allspice that you can throw into any normally savory dish and make it nice and sweet, and throw some berries and fruit in there instead of, the savory aspect. And it's just as delicious. You won't even notice that the sugar is missing. So if you guys are interested in more of these plant-based recipes for your kiddos, I'll link some below. Jaime was able to make things like sweet potato waffles and tofu nuggets and all these different bean burritos and things that really kind of mimicked her children's old familiar foods to make the transition much more smooth and gradual. Oh, what else did you do with the plant-based meat analogs and vegan candies?
So I just incorporated it into the diet, just because it's like my oldest son admitted he realized there was something off about the burger, and the dogs, but he didn't mind it. The taste was still there. It was funny, we were walking through the store the other day, and he smelled something different. He goes, "Mom, that smells like a vegan hot dog." And I was like, okay, so I feel like I'm doing something right. But yes, kind of, and then there are vegan candies out there. I find them on Amazon, and I also found them at Target. And so I've incorporated that, got rid of all the bad candy, and then incorporated that. And we actually, because Halloween was just the other day, we have a buy product. Basically what I did was I took all of their old candy, because we went trick-or-treating, and I gave them vegan candy. And so we did a trade. They got the vegan candy, they gave me the bad candy, and then I ended up donating that to we have a homeless shelter in town, so I ended up donating the non-vegan candy to the homeless shelter.
Oh, that's wonderful. So what Jaime did one day is she just decided to switch out her children's or their normal like hot dogs and burgers and such with plant-based versions, and they didn't even notice until recently, apparently.
Only the oldest one, but he still ate it and didn't complain, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's very cool. And not that we are promoting vegan candy. It's just that it's a great alternative for the time being until they can transition to something more healthful, like fruit, for example. But there's nothing wrong with some stepping stones, especially when it comes to your kiddos, because their fragile little taste buds are so used to eating some of these foods, and ripping it away from them just might be too much all at once. So Jaime has done this with a lot of grace and finesse, and I hope it can inspire others for sure.
I mean, it was really hard when we were out trick-or-treating. Luckily, they listened, and they were, someone gave them Swedish fish and Sour Patch, which are actually vegan. So they were allowed to eat that while walking. They could each have like one package. And then when we got home, I just did the trade or thing, and they were perfectly fine with it. So it's amazing because I've actually even the traded candy that I did, I put it out of sight, and they haven't even asked for it. So I was lucky this year in that they haven't eaten a lot of candy because they're not allowed to have it at schools, either daycare or actual school. So
Oh, that's good. That's wonderful. That's a good rule to have. So some other things you can do is you can also make your own vegan candies or vegan sweets at home, and you'll know exactly what's in them, and you might feel more comfortable giving those to your kiddos. Tell us, do you enjoy the food? Do you find it to be satisfying? Are you full from one meal to the next, or are you constantly going back to the fridge and getting more food? How do you feel?
I am completely satiated. I don't think that I would be where I am now, and such a believer in this diet if I wasn't satiated. Believe me, I had my doubts. I constantly was like, can I do this? Am I going to be satiated? Am I going to constantly be hungry? But I'm not. Like, I am eating a well-balanced meal every single time I sit down, and I'm constantly like, I feel full, and I'm eating till I'm full, and I'm still losing weight, and it's one of those, like, I feel full, but I don't feel heavy. I don't feel sluggish afterwards. I feel kind of I feel fresh from all of the fresh foods that I'm eating, and it kind of I feel good at the end of the meal, and I'm not constantly thinking of my next meal. I used to sit there and I would eat lunch, eat dinner, and think about what I was going to eat the next meal. I also, because I have everything prepped, but because I know that I'm full now, I don't have to think about the next meal. I'm satiated, and so that kind of helps too.
Yes, it can be so hard to do our jobs and to be mothers and to be out in the world when you're constantly obsessing about food. You can't get anything done. You're so distracted. It's obnoxious. So I'm really glad we were able to overcome that for you. Let's talk about some more of the noticeable health changes you've experienced in the past 90 days.
So I, like you touched on, I had a lot of I was on a lot of medications for anxiety and depression, and so I am off of those. I've also started recently journaling, which is kind of very cathartic because I'm putting it all in a book. And then after I'm done with that book, I'm actually going to burn it because that's awful. I've been reading up on a whole nother process of letting it go, and that's a good way to let it go. I've also, within the last week to 2 weeks, I started meditating. I'm not amazing at it, but I'm a work in progress, and but I've seen a lot of health benefits from that. I have stamina. I go to the gym 5 days a week in the morning. I get up and go. I'm not sluggish because I'm getting amazing sleep. I feel refreshed when I wake up in the morning. My alarm goes off and I get up and go because I'm ready to start the day. I had a lot of joint issues. I'm tall, I'm 5'10", and I was heavier, and it was really kind of taking a toll on my knees. I don't have knee pain anymore. I feel a lot better. My stamina with work, because I work with over 100-pound dogs sometimes. We get big breed dogs, and so having to crouch down, hold off for blood draws, get samples from them. Sometimes they get away from you. So it's one of those things that I've realized that I can pop up really easily. I'm not sluggish. My joints don't hurt to do that, and be able to catch a dog if it does happen to get away.
Oh, that's wonderful, Jamie. I know that was such a concern for you coming into this. The only things I wanted to add is that she is still using some food for coping and comfort, but she's using fruits and vegetables. So I would say that's a huge step in the right direction. And the biggest thing that she forgot to mention was that she's lost 25 pounds. Yay, Jamie! That's crazy. So although she wanted to lose 40 altogether, clearly she's going to continue with her journey and with this momentum she's got going. So she will definitely keep us updated when it comes to her progress in the future, I'm sure. If you find yourself struggling with this transition or losing those excess pounds, make sure you click my link in the description box below and schedule a free 45-minute consultation with me so we can get started on your health journey. Let's talk about some of these major challenges that you had to face while on this journey, because this could not have been easy.
So, challenges. I thought that I would have a ton of challenges, and I really didn't. I kind of found this way of living easy. I guess the challenge was my anxiety going into it, but Karli had everything laid out for me. And all I did was just sit there and say, okay, she took the guesswork out. I'm just going to use her meal plan and go from there. And I found it very easy. I thought my brain would like have an issue with me not having like the standard American diet. But after saying, okay, I'm going to do this for a week and really kind of pushing myself, I felt great after 2 days. And I was like, I don't need that diet anymore. And so I found it easy. But it definitely more of my struggle was in the beginning. I started to feel amazing. I started really realizing that I don't need my meds anymore. I'm lighter on my feet. My sleep is amazing. I think the biggest thing for me also was the struggle of my kids eating. Obviously, I have 2 older children that are stuck in their ways, and they were really already eating the standard American diet for pretty much every meal. And so it got to the point where I'm like, okay, let's incorporate them helping me with the meals. And so I realized that once I had them helping with meals, that kind of, I didn't have that struggle anymore.
Oh, that's so good to hear, Jamie. I know that's on everybody's mind with a family moving into something like this, is how the heck am I going to transition these kids? But it is possible. And like Jamie mentioned, obviously there's going to be a learning curve. Learning how a whole new way to make food and put them together in a tasty meal is going to take time and energy and focus, but it's well worth the effort. And within, what would you say, like a month? You had it down. It was becoming very natural and just like, any other diet that she was very accustomed to. Finding things in their specific spots at the grocery store and knowing what recipes to make into what quantities and how long something stays fresh in the fridge for. You just have to experiment with these things, and over time it really starts to just fall into place and you find your way. Like, you can follow anybody's meal plans, right? But in order to make this work for you, you just have to experiment to a point where, okay, I like this, I don't like this. I want to add this with this, but I want to take this out. You tailor it to not only your taste preferences, but your lifestyle. We don't all have a ton of time to sit at home making food and chopping up vegetables and whatnot. So there are so many ways around this, and Jamie was able to implement this wonderfully. So how are your cravings now for processed or animal foods compared to the initial weeks on the program?
Non-existent. I don't really have any cravings. If I do happen to have cravings, I think the worst that I had was sugar. I was able to kind of give up the cheese and the meats and everything really easily. The sugar was the hardest. But what I would do is I would just put grapes or strawberries or anything, I'd freeze them and then I eat them, and it kind of made me feel like I was eating a special treat. But I also had no issues like substituting my fruits for my candy. The natural sugars of the fruit really kind of helps my cravings that I was having for the sugar.
Yeah, that's a great tactic to get off any sweet tooth, is by just using fruit instead. And soon you won't even need the crutch. Soon you'll just have fruit when you want a piece of fruit. You won't have it because you're craving something else. Eventually. It takes time. But not for this woman. She literally, within the first week on the program, she was not only starting to get off her psych medications, 3 of them, I might add, but she was also not having any issues with cravings. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen for everybody. It's actually very rare. So Jamie's really lucky in that aspect, but I think she has come up with a number of different coping mechanisms that were really able to work for her. And congratulations for that, Jamie, because that's no easy task. So how are you navigating social situations with things like holidays, celebrations, and dining out these days?
So I don't see it an issue. My parents, which I will be having holiday meals with, are very on board with my diet change and then helping. So I will pretty much just prepare my meals, or actually just take stuff to prepare my meals at my mom and dad's house when we go. I don't see that an issue. I will literally just eat what I am eating every single day, that the day of Thanksgiving or Christmas or anything like that. Social settings, we don't ever go on the fly. Like, we always know when we're about to go to a friend's house or a party or something like that. So I just bring my own food. I know that my friends are not going to have the food that I want or that I am eating at this moment in time. So I just bring it along. And I think that's a really good thing about having meals prepped, doing the meal prep, is that I have everything in my refrigerator. Or I will batch cook soups and things like that, and I'll make a huge batch and I'll even freeze some of it. So if I'm going over to a friend's house, it's as easy as me pulling out one of the freezer bags, and then when I get there to their location, they all have a stove, they all have a microwave, they all have ways that I can heat up my meal. So that's very, very simple in that sense. I've never had an issue with there. And then as far as going out to dinner, we have a lot of vegan options where I live, restaurants that cater to my way of eating, with no oils and things like that. So that's nice. But there are the few times where I don't have that option. So say if I were going to a sushi place, and they didn't have the options of having sushi there that was vegan for me, I asked them to give me white rice, and then so they do the steamed rice, and then I will ask them to steam broccoli for me, which it's an option on their menu. I just ask them not to use oil, and so they bring me steamed broccoli and rice. Every once in a while, I'll be able to find a place that has a veggie roll, so I get that, or I will specifically say, I see you have these options on your menu. Can you make me a roll with those options? And 9 times out of 10, they have no problem. So that's kind of how I navigate going out there and doing everything.
You make it sound so easy. So you never felt like pressure or like awkwardness when you're going out with friends and they're asking you about the way you're eating, and how do you cope with that?
I guess I just have some really I have some really understanding friends. I've had a few that make fun of me. Oh, you're not eating meat. Ha ha ha. How are you going to get your protein and all that kind of stuff? But most of them are seeing my progress. Most of them are seeing my weight loss. Most of them see how I'm feeling even after 1 to 2 weeks, and they're along for the ride too. I love educating, and I've had to do a lot of it just because people see the change in me and they want to know how. And it's not with some bad diet pill or anything like that. It's changing my lifestyle. And they see, someone told me the other day at church, I have a glow in my skin, just because of all the good nutrients that I'm putting into my body. And I luckily have not had a lot of people making fun of my diet or making fun of me, but more people supporting me and asking questions on how they could start eating the way I am so they could see the benefits in themselves.
Oh, that's great. You're a wonderful influence then on your community. Okay, so then do you see yourself maintaining this lifestyle long term, Jaime?
Yes. I don't see myself going back. I feel like it would be a disservice to myself. It's disservice to my children, for me to kind of not introduce more of this lifestyle to them. We made a game out of it. We've made a fun time of us being in the kitchen and them getting to be in the process of being able to pick their foods and try different things and kind of just, we make a game of eating all the new stuff. They always have to taste it, even if they don't like it. But it's amazing. Give my kids credit. It's just like 9 times out of 10, they like what they're eating. And so that's a check off on that food, and we move on to the next. But absolutely, I don't see myself going back with as many benefits that I've been able to find or to kind of feel through this diet.
Yeah, Jamie actually grows some of her own food. So she is constantly in the garden with her and her kiddos, showing them where the food comes from and getting them excited about it and letting them really be involved in the process. I think that's so cool and super important and something I really look forward to doing with my daughter. Here's a great question. What types of advice do you have for somebody considering a transition to a whole food, plant-based lifestyle?
Just take the leap. Find hacks. Instead of sugar, use fruits, and then just use a lot of seasonings. That's the biggest thing that I did. And then try the fruit or try the veggies more than once. And if you didn't like it with that seasoning, you might like it with this seasoning. I sauteed a lot of my veggies with a little bit of water and tried different seasonings and just tried different ways of preparing the foods and see which way you like it. But I can't say enough just to kind of don't overthink it and jump in.
Yeah, Jamie also used a ton of resources. So she is obviously a big fan of YouTube. So she was able to use like Plentiful Kiki's recipes and different nutritionstudies.org recipes to get her moving. And I have several recipes for children, like the muffins and the vegan carrot cake and such, that she was also able to implement. But yeah, I think she forgets how challenging she thought this was going to be and how easy it really turned out. I think what's helpful is to just give yourself the grace of knowing that it's a process and it takes time, just like anything that's important to you. You may stumble a little bit, but with any new skill, you're going to get back on the horse and try again and, see what works for you before you make any rash decisions. So I'm really grateful for this woman right here. She's made such an impact in my life, and I'm really fortunate to have gotten to know you these past few months. And I really hope you do stay in touch with me and let us know how your journey continues. For those of you who have not seen her initial interview for the first 6 weeks she was on the plant-based diet, I will link that here. But otherwise, we will say goodbye to Jamie. It's been so nice getting to spend this time with you.
You too.
Bye, Jamie.
Bye.